Right. So today I'm going to be talking about, yeah? Ah, yeah, okay. So we're waiting for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get started with the next talk. All right.
We're having some fantastic talks today, and it continues with our next guest, Alessandro de Carli from Accurist, and the title of his talk is Every Chip Counts, the Mobile Cloud Rebellion. So, Alessandro, take it away, please.
Thank you very much for the people that have been now waiting. I know that we have a tight schedule, that's why it made sense to rush it. So, what I want to talk to you about today is actually the idea, a couple of ideas really. And the talk has been titled Dancing with Moore's Law because actually, for the ones not familiar with Moore's Law, it's kind of this idea of a very fast-paced, ever-evolving landscape in the whole hardware side of things. But it actually started changing in the last couple of years because it's no longer just about more and more performance, but it is a little different metric that I will introduce you to in a bit. before we get into that, why are we actually thinking about this at all? And I want to introduce you to a concept that I call open crowdsource, because I think this lies at the very heart of everything that I do and I believe in while working. And the idea is basically that if we take a look at the Bitcoin white paper, which was launched in about now 16 years ago, already by just kind of talking about an idea that would resonate a lot with all sorts of people, you could really start a movement that today is even capable of challenging entire governments and larger institutions. So why did this really happen? Well, because the idea was to actually come up with a solution that would be having less systemic risk. And it was launched in the financial crisis, and it is still relevant today, because what you see here is actually the last bank run, which was Silicon Valley Bank actually going belly up because of speculation on interest rate. So we know that it is still relevant, but is this really a problem? Well, it is not necessarily a problem for the employees nor for the people that are working there, because not all heroes wear capes. We always have Jerome and Christina that are bailing us out. They have this fancy printing machine that allows them basically for every possible fuck up a politician is doing, just turn on the machine and pay their way out of it, right? This has happened for sure with all these bailouts, but even stronger, you could actually feel that with COVID, where basically the printing went completely out of control, and nowadays, of course, we are talking about inflation and everything, and there is a lot of mind share around this topic, which means that Bitcoin definitely has managed to tackle a problem and be very relevant even after these 16 years, even after the technology actually becoming less and less advanced, right? Another thing that Bitcoin managed to achieve is become one of the top 10 assets. So I think we've come a very, very long way on the financial side and on the Bitcoin side. Another topic that as well is very prone to centralization, sadly, is the topic of compute. And this is where Accurus comes into play, because the idea is that we have these Web3 projects that are growing and producing more and more cool technologies, but the problem is that the hungriness for compute is pushing all of these companies towards AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft, which means that we're losing a little bit our ethos, our idea of decentralization, the reason why we started with this. Now, you may think, okay, is this really a big problem for the general public? Well, on one hand, for sure, you will not have the best possible pricing, right? Because whenever you have kind of this monopolistic setups, you will end up paying more. But what is way more important to say is you lose the data ownership. And this means that up to this moment, you could say, okay, I'm not that interesting. If someone is actually able to go through my data, if someone is actually able to utilize my personal content, my images and so on and so forth, it doesn't really matter to me in a negative sense, because no one will care about what I'm doing, since I will just be noise, right? And they're just caring about more important people. But this is no longer the case, because mobile AI has now evolved to this kind of new era where it's no longer prone, or it's not known to be prone to overfitting. Because up to a couple of years ago, you had this phenomena that if you would add more and more data to a machine learning model, it would actually lose its accuracy. Now, with large language models, that's no longer the case. This means that all the noise, all your data that flows into these pipes actually is converted into data that is being made usable. And now you should actually start caring about decentralization and also data ownership as such. Because let's not forget, these big tech companies are mostly US companies. That means that through the Patriot Act, they're not only sharing all of your data and all of your compute with all their sub-processors like Accenture, Deloitte, and you name it. They're also sharing that data at the will of the government, the US government. So, I mentioned this before. The idea is, if we actually want to start challenging big, established, centralized player, you need to start playing by different rules. Because you cannot just think you will be able to just upcycle some sort of servers and then be competitive, since they have the better relationships to hardware suppliers, they also have the better economies of scale, and you're just left with all the overhead of decentralization. So to basically change the rules of the game, there is Rob Aitken here saying that actually the really new Moore's law is the performance per watt, and this is where mobile devices are entirely excelling. Because mobile devices have a chip that is really, really super computational efficient, but not only that, it also comes with a very versatile compute. It includes a GPU, it includes a security module that is very, very advanced, and it includes as well a TPU, which is for machine learning tasks. This means that you're receiving all of this compute for a very, very small price, because now putting into comparison a mobile device with here a PowerEdge rack server, they mark the same point on the compute scale. So here we have numbers coming from the CPU benchmark website, and we can actually see that a Pixel 7a that costs us about $499 is capable of delivering the same performance like a PowerEdge rack server. But what is really cool about this is that the same performance is actually being provided with 1/50th of the power consumption. So now we're actually able to start creating a platform that is capable of challenging these giants. And there's more to that. The killer use case in this case is actually upcycling. Mobile devices, and especially the compute inside mobile devices, are a resource that is very abundant, and you can start utilizing that. And here we see you're able to purchase mobile devices with 8 cores, 8 gigabytes of RAM, with something like $50. A compute that would cost you way more if you wanted that in a server format. Now, you may wonder, okay, are you really comparing apples with apples? And we have here a study from the University of Zurich that actually tested our cores. They tested it against the offering from AWS Lambda, Google Cloud Function, and Azure Functions, and to even our surprise, they managed to achieve performance that was 34% faster than the maxed out version of AWS Lambda. And why is that? Well, because here, you're actually accessing directly the silicon, you're accessing directly the cores of that mobile device, and you don't have all that sort of abstraction layers for security that AWS is introducing. Now you may wonder who is actually using this type of compute. It turns out that we have a big traction in the Web3 space, of course, because it is something that, it's where we're native to. We started by offering on-chain automation that can be run on these devices. The developers receive a runtime that is capable of running Node.js. So whichever Node.js module you have will be compatible with that runtime. And this is just one of the runtimes currently live. We're going to be announcing also more environments soon, because we saw that people are also keen to utilize Python and so on and so forth. Let me also highlight one of the use cases that basically has been using this for its security. We have TZBTC, which is a form of wrapped Bitcoin, similar to WBTC, but with the difference that if you own the wrapped Bitcoin, you're actually able to convert it to the native on-chain Bitcoin. Now, this whole mechanism of conversion is all handled by the trusted execution environment made available through Accurist. And this is securing today more than 1,000 Bitcoins. So use cases with high requirements on security are one thing. But the Web 2 world actually is more demanding when it comes to compute. That's why that's even a little bit more interesting for us. And the use case that we've seen there is in the market intelligence side of things. So you can think about a company that is selling shoes. They want to be able to analyze whether their pricing is correct, and they have a couple of thousand shoes. They cannot do that manually. What they can do with Accurist is basically distribute the observations all around the globe so that they don't get blocked by all sorts of crawling blockers, and then update their price automatically and have that automation all run inside Accurist. So this is who is using the compute. We have more than 3,000 deployments on the network right now. We launched a Canary network a couple of months ago. Yes. And you can use it with your favorite wallets so far. Now, how does it look like on the supply side, you may wonder. And also there, the traction has been quite impressive, more than I would have ever imagined. We have something of about 6,500 devices worldwide connected, all very, very much distributed around the globe by people that are just upcycling mobile phones. So they're purchasing phones that have cracked screens, purchasing phones that have some other sort of defect, and actually then be able to convert that phone to a compute unit for this network. The component that is orchestrating and doing the matchmaking between a compute provider and a compute consumer, aka developer, is, would have guessed it, a substrate-based chain. That's why we're here at Polkadot Decoded. And I have to say that was the best possible decision because, as you can imagine, the minute these devices start to generate messages and start to orchestrating and also advertising the resources that they have, it becomes very, very chatty. We have now more than 21 million transactions on-chain. And have more than 400,000 transactions that are done every single day. And we never had actually performance issues by using the Substrate SDK or Polkadot Polkadot SDK nowadays. If you have a mobile device at home that you don't know what to do with it, please join us. The network is open. The onboarding literally takes 3 minutes. You're always able to go back to the initial state. So the way someone onboards the device is that you first wipe it entirely, and then you dedicate it to the network. But whenever you want, you're able to go back to this wiped state. You don't need to know anything about flashing ROMs or anything about that. If you're able to manipulate and use a mobile device, you're good and ready to go. That's why as well we've seen a huge growth on the onboarded device side, as you see here. Now, one of the cooler things that has happened last week for me is that up to this moment, you had to really dedicate your device fully to the network. You can no longer utilize it for YouTube or some phone calls and so on and so forth. But since last Sunday, actually, we released Accurist the Processor Lite. And the Processor Lite allows you to install this as an application on your Android phone, side by side to your personal profile. For us, it was very important that it's completely isolated from your personal environment. What you will see is that you actually have your personal environment and then Accurist as an entirely separate environment that you can also shut off entirely. The idea is not that this is running in the background while you're working or while you're actually utilizing your phone. It's really just running in the background while you're charging your phone. Yes, that's the thing. And that's it really from my side. So if you like what you've seen here, please join us, join the Cloud Rebellion and help us really disrupt this heavily centralized currently, cloud. Good. Happy to take also some questions. Yes, please.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Cool.
I was just curious about sort of battery considerations, especially when you're upcycling older phones. Is there aspects the software is managing there, or is that something that's just like a thing you have to watch out for? As far as, especially older phones, they have problems with batteries or being plugged in all the time, that sort of thing?
Right. That's a very good question. Out of all these 6,500 devices, and by now, there's some people that have been running them for 6 months. There was just a single report of a battery kind of bubbling up. And the devices are constantly charging. This means that, of course, there is a risk of that, but it's not as high as one would have expected. Plus, Android is now also running with a battery saver mode, starting with Android 13 and above, that actually is reducing the charge and keeping it always at 80%. For older phones, this might be an issue, and this was an older phone that had this issue, but I think with time passing, this will become less and less of an issue, actually. Cool. Cool. I see that we have time for other questions, or otherwise I'll be able to. Cool. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much indeed, Alessandro. Fascinating talk. I appreciate your time. The next speaker will be up